Joining us on the Fox News Rundown is Dr. Marty Makary, the Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, as the Trump administration makes a big push for Make America Healthy Again with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And first of all, Dr. Makary, Commissioner, good to have you here.
Great to be with you, David.
Thanks for being here. I know this part of this Make America Healthy campaign is to look at the things that we're eating, we're drinking, maybe pills we're taking. And one of the things that you've just been focused on is what you're calling like synthetic opioids, right? I mean, we think of painkillers and fentanyl, but this is something different.
Yeah, so almost in every neighborhood in America now, a vape and smoke shop is opening up. I mean, they're just sprouting out like popcorn. We don't know what's in them. If you talk to parents, you talk to school boards, you talk to doctors, they don't really know what's in them. Let me tell you what's in them. 85% of the vaping products are illegal.
Hold on. These are stores selling these products, and they're almost all illegal.
That's right. And it's been, the last administration was asleep at the wheel at this. We're going to be taking action. There's a product there called 7-OH that is an opioid that kids walk in and buy. And we are deeply concerned about that product. So we are publicly announcing action on 7-OH, and we're trying to educate people about what it is. What it is a synthetic concentrated byproduct of kratom. Kratom is the name often on one of the neon signs on the vape shops.
Okay.
With a K.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that.
And so we're not focused on the kratom plant or kratom leaf. That's been used for centuries. That's not our focus. Our focus is a synthetic concentrated byproduct called 7-OH. It goes by many names. This is one. I've got these products here in front of me. 7-hydroxymetragenine, 7-omega. It's in some drinks.
I'm looking at this one here, Blue Raz.
Yeah, so they've got...
Gummies. These are gummies.
These are gummies. These are pills. This is a powder that gets put into a drink. This is a drink with it in. People need to know this is an opioid that can be up to 13 times more potent than morphine.
I'm thinking of opioids as a drug, like a pill I might take. But this is not.
This is a bit of a chewable. That's a tablet.
But these aren't.
No, they're in these foods. There is no FDA-approved gummy or supplement or food with 7-OH in it. 7-OH is something we need to alarm the public about.
So how can they legally sell a product that's not legal? Like, how do they do it? Like, how does this company manufacture them?
This is a new synthetic concentrated byproduct, and so it's not been a controlled substance. It's just been off the radar.
Okay.
So in this Trump administration now, our FDA is taking action to initiate the scheduling to treat 7-OH as a controlled substance. Now, that's one step. We've got to let doctors and parents and the public know about this substance. And then we have to crack down on the supply chains, the distributors, and the stores that are selling it.
There's all these drinks out there, too, that have all kinds of things in them. Are you concerned about those? Are they similar? Is it a little bit different?
I'm concerned about them, and I'm concerned about the claims that are made with them. They're sort of have claims that they're miraculous. They're going to help all your health ailments. Again, we're not focused on the trace amounts of 7-OH that's in the kratom leaf. We're focused on these concentrated 7-OH forms. And so that's really our focus.
You know, you've been talking in recent months about other things that we consume, whether they're dyes or other products that are, you call them ultra-processed foods, essentially. Why are they so bad for us?
Well, first of all, they're addictive. They don't have good nutritional value. Not only are they low in micronutrients, but you're eating, look at the packages on some of these things. Mm-hmm. You got 35 different chemicals just for a little bar.
Right.
So...
But they taste good.
They can taste good, and so that's part of the problem is we have engineered highly addictive chemicals in our food supply. These vibrant colors also contribute to the attractiveness to children, and we wonder why 40% of our nation's kids now are sick with a chronic disease diagnosed, and 30% have prediabetes or diabetes. It's not a willpower problem. Our obesity epidemic is not a willpower problem among our nation's children. It's what we're doing to children.
So what chemicals in specific do you want out that are addictive?
So we took action on the 9 petroleum-based food dyes because it creates this vibrancy that sort of makes these ultra-processed foods more attractive. We saw another food manufacturer remove titanium dioxide, the maker of Skittles. No, we don't need titanium dioxide in food. We are now have other companies looking at talc. Talc is in trace amounts in some candies, and we asked companies to use a cost-neutral alternative. We're going to do an inventory of all the chemicals that are banned in Europe that appear in the U.S. food supply. There's over 1,000 of them. And we're rewriting the dietary guidance so we have good nutritional guidance. That's not the old broken food pyramid.
People have claimed for a long time that dyes are harmful to us and our children, like, hyperactivity or different things like that. Is that a real connection?
I think it is. Look, we have a randomized controlled trial published in the medical journal Lancet showing a connection between petroleum-based food dyes and ADHD. And we have parents who say that their kids have had this aggressive, abnormal, or ADHD behavior, and then it goes away when they eliminate petroleum-based food dyes, and then it regresses when they get back into them. So we have to listen to parents. We don't need a 10-year randomized controlled trial. Given the information that we have, there's enough of a concern. There's an epidemic of ADHD that nobody has a good explanation for. We can't keep drugging our nation's kids at scale. We've got to start talking about root causes and prevention. We've got to talk about school lunch programs, not just putting every 6-year-old on Ozempic. We've got to talk about the quality of somebody's sleep, not just keep dosing them into infinity and perpetuity with meds. And we've got to talk about environmental exposures that cause disease, not just the chemo to treat it.
All right. Dietary regulations and guidelines. We know the food pyramid, but is that going to change? What do you want that to change? What we think about nutrition?
Yes. Look, in this administration, we're rewriting the broken dietary guidelines. We're working with USDA, and at FDA, we are part of that drafting. We're going to end the 50-year war on natural saturated fat. We're going to talk about ultra-processed foods. Look, if you get your grains from a ultra-processed form where it's stripped of its fiber, chopped up and functions like sugar, that's different from a whole grain and from healthy grains. And we want to talk about protein. Look, protein's important, and many people are not getting enough.
Well, we were told for a long time, you got to be careful eating red meat. You got to be careful certain things because of, like you talked about, saturated fat. I know when I was a kid, we stopped drinking whole milk. We started using margarine, right? Yeah. Because my father had heart issues. And so we were told to get rid of those fats. So what was wrong with that?
The medical establishment demonized the wrong thing. It demonized natural saturated fats based on a false dogma, a theory by Dr. Ansel Keys in the 1960s. 3 large, gigantic studies tried to prove that fat caused the heart disease epidemic. All 3 failed to show that association. But you didn't hear an apology from the medical field. You just saw this kind of, pivoting and, talking around the issue. What we did is we demonized fat and moved the American food supply to an ultra-processed, refined carbohydrate and sugar-based food supply as the obesity, diabetes epidemic expanded and surged right in front of our eyes. And so we have got to show humility and acknowledge that this war on fat demonized the wrong thing.
So what else in the food pyramid should we be changing?
I think people don't appreciate the need for protein. I think protein sometimes gets lost in the old calories in equals calories out.
Yeah.
I mean, that rationale has done tremendous damage because it's not just a count of calories. It's the quality of what you eat. It's the importance of complex carbohydrates, not just simple carbohydrates. It's food bound to fiber. It's getting that protein in your system. So the calories in, calories out, I think, has been a dogma that most of the nutrition science community now has moved away from.
Do we eat enough fruits and vegetables? Is that still a focus that needs to be emphasized?
Cooking is always a great option, and whole foods, things that are raised from good farming techniques, animals with good, humane, healthy raising practices, and things that grow out of good soil. That's what we need to get back to. We've moved to this diet where we're eating now chemicals and cardboard sometimes. And so we've got to talk about ultra-processed food. We're going to come up with a definition. It may not be perfect, but we need something to guide where taxpayer dollars are going. In the Trump administration, it's the first time we've seen waivers for the SNAP food assistance program. so that states don't have to use taxpayer dollars for sugary drinks and ultra-processed junk food. And so we're starting to make some major changes.
You know, your administration's under the big, beautiful bill. Democrats had talked about how you're going to take away food assistance from a lot of Americans.
Yeah, actually, a big, beautiful bill does the opposite. And so we're deeply committed to preserving the integrity of these programs, but pivoting to a healthier set of options. Because if you look at the track record of the last 50 years of government and the medical establishment, it's been a failure when it comes to the health of the population. Sure, we do amazing operations and have chemotherapy and proton beam therapy and gene editing. That's amazing. That's been a success. But when it comes to the health of our nation's children, it's been a 50-year failure. We've got to start doing things differently.
You know, before you became FDA commissioner, you were focused on public policy for a very long time in healthcare, and here you are in this job. And I know you're in New York, and you're talking to business leaders, and you want to look into also as part of your job how the FDA handles. I mean, there's a lot of regulation that you are in charge of now.
And too much regulation. The FDA regulates 20% of the U.S. economy.
20, that's a lot.
That's a big part. I mean, it's everything from tobacco to food and mangoes coming across the border, medical devices, drugs. It's got a big portfolio, but we have got to ask ourselves, why does it take 10 years for a new drug to come to market? Do we really think if you have the cure for breast cancer, we should just have these applications sitting on a desk and, tell people to wait? We are doing everything we can to modernize the agency and streamline the process. One of our pilot programs gets a decision out in weeks, and we can use a lot of the idle time. We can generally enter a deregulatory era at the FDA, cut the red tape, streamline the process, listen to industry on where it can be more user-friendly, and at the same time, keep the scientific review process impeccably independent. One of my first actions as commissioner was to remove all industry and pharma members from FDA advisory committees. We've got to protect that. But we got to partner with them and figure out how do we get more cures for the American public. I'd like to see a cure or meaningful treatment for type 1 diabetes, for neurodegenerative diseases, these pediatric rare conditions, for certain stages of cancer. I mean, there are incredibly promising things now that can melt away a cancer where you don't even need chemo, radiation, or surgery. And we've seen it in stage 1 and 2 rectal cancer. And I'd like to see a treatment for PTSD for our nation's veterans. We're still losing 7,000 a year. We're losing 7,000 a year to suicide. That's more than the entire Iraq war, and we're losing them every year. So the war is over, but the boys keep dying. They deserve an answer on these new treatments for PTSD in a timely fashion, in my opinion.
You have come under criticism, and so, of course, says Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Democrats have said you're undermining public trust. For instance, he had changed the particular advisory committee on immunization practices, right? And that vaccine board, and people said, well, he's undermining our trust in vaccines and making people not trust them. What's your response when you hear that?
Well, we walked into a mess. This Trump administration and HHS under Secretary Kennedy 4 or 5 months ago, we walked into a mess. Public trust was at an all-time low in the medical field. A JAMA study showed that we went from 71% of the public trusting doctors and hospitals down to 40% over the 4 years before we got there. That's a 31-point drop in doctors and hospitals. That's a massive loss of public trust. We're going to show humility. We're going to tell you what we know and don't know. We're going to change the misinformation of the food pyramid. We're going to give people more choices, and we're going to have a diverse group of scientific opinions on some of these committees, and we're going to have NIH funding that funds not the Wuhan Virology Institute. They're going to fund root causes of chronic diseases that our nation's kids are suffering from.
Is COVID part of the reason what happened and all the controversy over the way COVID was handled, part of the reason why public trust went down, you think?
I think so. When you lie to people over and over again about natural immunity and schools must be closed a year and a half and toddlers have to wear a mask for 3 years, a cloth mask, and all of that dogma has caught up. The data has caught up with public health officials, and that's why we have a big job to do to rebuild public trust.
Dr. Marty Makary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Great to be with you, David.